I don't know why we're so close to each other
We're
tonight.
so close.
Usually we're not this close to each other.
We'll figure it out one day these days.
I would have you done? Pink pony girl. Just having fun.
On the stage with my heels is where I belong, down at the Bad Therapy Club.
You're
gonna keep on watching at the Bad Therapy Club. Bad Therapy Club.
I just want to warn anyone who has their headphones up all the way to just turn them down a little bit.
It might be too late by now. You've already had your earphones.
Can you
blown out.
imagine? You're like laying down in bed to listen to our. You're laying down in bed. You're laying down to get your eyelashes done. You're like in the sauna at the gym. Really,
I do wonder, like, when we start just popping off and being ridiculously fucking hilarious, because we are, and someone's just laying down getting their lashes done with their eyes closed. What does their lash lady think? You know?
Why the fuck do I gotta laugh like that?
Madison,
You ever laugh so hard? You
tuberculosis.
ever laugh so hard you like there's nothing left inside of you? Because here's the thing, I think that people expect by this point that the opening, like
Is gonna be
to the jump, is gonna be a bit much.
outlandish.
So maybe just turn it down
Yeah, or turn it all the way up.
and then turn it all the way up.
Or just turn it all the way up.
Sometimes when I'm getting my lashes done and I'm listening to the podcast, like our podcast, I just be cracking the fuck up. I'll just be laying there like...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if people are around others laughing, listening to our podcast.
You know what's so funny about that too is like she always sees me put my podcast on before and I use the YouTube version. I'm
Yeah.
like, I wonder if she's like, is this bitch watching a video of herself and laughing that? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this girl?
Also, does anybody else find us funny?
Or is it annoying? No, seriously, I'm not gonna stop.
No, it's not going to change. I'm just curious if anyone else finds us as funny as we find ourselves.
Probably a few, but
Maybe a
not
couple.
all.
The ones that are a part of the Pink Pony Club.
Oh, speaking of Pink Pony Club, Allie has a little surprise for us. She's coming out of the 26-year-old closet.
And if you maybe misinterpreted that statement, I am straight. But I turned 26 today.
Straight.
Well, I'm straight.
It's her birthday. And how cool
It's
is
my
it that
birthday.
we both had birthdays on the days that we filmed?
It's meant to be. Both of us had birthdays. We just repeating exactly what you said. But it's like we have the same day that we film each week. It's
We
on
do it, yeah, we
Tuesday.
didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah. And it's our birthday. Or my birthday.
And it's our birthday, and it was her birthday, and it was my birthday.
Well, when it's my birthday, it's your birthday.
So it's her, every day's our birthday
Yeah.
for onesies.
Yeah.
But for twosies, yeah, it's her like actual legitimate birthday.
Yeah, not my fake birthday.
We're going to take a shot. We haven't even cheers yet because we've been fucking screaming the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Should we? Okay, well, cheers with this.
Cheers to Bad Therapy Podcast, episode 39, baddies.
39 baddies.
And to my co-host and best friend and sister's 26th motherfucking birthday.
Hey, cheers,
Tink.
motherfucker.
I didn't have to tink that time. This is real fucking glass.
It just breaks.
So these little shots, in case any of our girlies were wondering and want to get drunk with us, they're called martini shots. So basically what you do is you make a full-blown martini. Same ratios, 2.5 ounces of gin, an ounce of olive juice, a half ounce of dry vermouth. You shake it up and you pour it into a shot glass and you drink it all at one time. It's actually fantastic.
Is that actually what these were?
These were
Was it
literally-
one split in half, though?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
But, like,
Because it's good, but it's like a lot.
yeah, no, that was like a lot of liquid for sure.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to get super drunk, just take martini shots. You're
Okay.
welcome.
Yeah. Well, we're working on it. We went to sushi tonight to celebrate my birthday. It was the best sushi both of us had ever eaten. I think the whole time we were scarfing down food saying, oh my fucking God, this is so good. At one point, Madison said, shove it up my pussy.
I was eating this one roll and like she hadn't tried it yet. And I was like, oh my God. And I made this like disgusted face. I was like, oh my God. And she was like, is it good? And I was like, shove it up my pussy.
Can we tell them what you actually said?
I mean, fuck it.
She said, shove it up my cunt. We're at a nice sushi restaurant. We are not being
There's
quiet.
fucking tables behind. I know. Sometimes I'm a little out of pocket.
But like, that's how good the food was. So
you guys already knew that. It's not a surprise.
nobody's surprised. So tonight's podcast is going to be all about me because it's my birthday. I'm just kidding. Tonight's podcast is going to be about red flags to look for when you're on a first date.
So we have briefly covered dating in the past. I mean, we've covered relationships quite a bit.
A lot of
relationships.
Yeah.
But tonight we want to go in depth with what are red flags when you're on a first date? How should you dress when you're on a first date? How should you present yourself on a first date? Like, we're talking about really getting into the nitty gritty of trying to pick a fucking mate.
Yeah.
And making sure that you don't make a whoopsie-oopsie. Because it's really easy.
Because we could talk all day about what we think a red flag is or whether or not someone likes us. But like, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how you're really going to know on a first date in the beginning, early. We're talking early stages of a relationship. We're going to cover how to find the right person if you haven't found them yet, like things to look for in other people, things to do within yourself, ways to dress, ways to act.
How to present yourself like the most confident version of yourself. Because like, everybody knows when you're going on a first date, especially with someone you haven't met, you're like,
it's fucking nerve-wracking.
What do I wear? How do I do my makeup? Like,
it's nerve-wracking, and I feel like especially on first dates when we're nervous and we're trying to present the best version of ourselves so that the other person likes us, we're not paying so much attention to what they're doing that is potentially a red fucking flag.
Now, if you're already in a relationship and you think, well, I don't need this podcast, yes, you fucking do listen anyway. Like, what do you want me to say?
Yeah, if you're in a relationship right now and you're thinking, I don't need this, I'm past the red flag stage, I'm past the beginning stages of my relationship, what could I learn from this podcast? We've also come across some new recent astrological facts and tips and tricks. And if you know us or if you know anything about me, I'm all about astrology, okay? Madison's all about manifestation. It all goes hand in hand at the end of the day. We have some pretty interesting stuff that we want to talk about. It has to do with your astrological chart and how to become more attractive based on that, more confident based on that, and just like an overall more appealing version of yourself, which I feel personally is useful to anybody at any stage of their life or relationship.
So we're going to start this bitch off right with some red flags to look out for on a first date. The number one red flag to look out for on a first date is someone who is always on their phone. If someone is constantly checking their phone, looking at their phone, putting their phone upside down on the table, especially, if a guy gets up to go to the bathroom and he flips his phone upside down, it's done. Don't do it.
But something else that I've heard from guys specifically, if they're on a date with a girl and she leaves her phone at the table when she goes to the bathroom, that's a green flag.
Leaves her phone and leaves it upright?
Yeah.
Double green flag. Not like it's like somebody you don't know should be looking at your personal business or anything, but it just shows like
that you're not hiding anything.
It's a subliminal way for someone to like see that you're a trustworthy person.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't, if there was another dude texting you, it's not their business. You're not dating them, but it just shows them that you don't have anything to hide. You're trustworthy. So if you go on a date with a guy and if he looks at his phone more than like to fucking call the cops, the ambulance, because you're having a heart attack, that is such a red flag.
Yeah.
You are there for one specific reason. It's to talk to someone, to get to know someone. I understand it can be awkward, uncomfortable, fucking weird sometimes.
I think the reason that it's a red flag is not necessarily because they're doing anything shady on their phone, but it shows that they're actually not there for the right reasons. Because if someone were actually serious about getting to know you, unless the date is going really poorly
like
and
bad,
it's very
yeah.
awkward, that man should be locked in with you to try to get to know you. Because if somebody is going on a date with you, they should want to get to know you. They should be there to see if you're a potential partner that they would want to pursue. If they're on their phone, if they aren't taking you seriously, if they aren't asking you questions, if they just seem like overall like they're just there for the food and the drinks and the hot girl, they're not looking for something serious and you're on the date because you are, then that's a really quick indicator that maybe you guys are not looking for the same things.
And that leads directly into red flag number 2, someone who doesn't ask you questions. If you ask somebody a question on a first date, like you should, they give you an answer, and then they directly go into talking about themselves in some other sense or some other status, telling a story, whatever it may be, and then they don't ever ask you the question back. Like if you say, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm a finance bro, and I make a lot of money, and this is how finance works, but they never actually found out what you do for a living. That person is not interested in getting to know you whatsoever.
It's funny too, because I feel like this is the red flag podcast, but these also point directly towards green flags. The biggest green flag that I have noticed in dating is when somebody asks questions about you. I've said this before on previous podcasts, but when somebody asks questions about you and what you like and what you do, even if it seems like a silly, stupid, insignificant question, you're like, why the fuck do they care? It is actually kind of charming and appealing to me when somebody asks me questions about things that they probably don't give a shit about, because it makes me feel like they're trying to get to know me, which is the whole point of going on a date in the first place, or dating, or if you're talking to somebody or seeing somebody. Like, it shows that they're interested in knowing the little insignificant things about you
and who you actually are as a person.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of this, if someone is asking you a lot of questions, but then when you ask questions back, doesn't really like divulge a lot of information or kind of like reroutes the question back to you in some way. And I can actually speak on this because I used to be the fucking queen of not answering questions. Yeah, avoidance. It is the number one side that someone is going to have some sort of issue with avoidance, when they don't want to divulge any personal information, but somehow manage to charmingly route it back to you. Just like a little red flag should raise in your brain that maybe this person isn't interested in sharing with me. Some people are just closed off. I understand that. It takes time.
To your point, like, I'm somebody that's a very anxiously attached person, and especially when I'm with somebody that's very avoidant, I don't think being an avoidantly attached person is an immediate red flag. That's like saying somebody that's anxiously attached is an immediate red flag. Everyone has their own experience that shapes them into who they are and how safe and willing they feel to open up and be vulnerable, and like the way that they love and the way that they receive love, right? But if you know that you're somebody that doesn't particularly do well with avoidance, not saying that you should cut it right then and there if you recognize that they're being avoidant or rerouting or not giving any personal answers or not opening up. Like, some people do take time, but it could be an indicator that that person has an avoidant attachment style, and maybe you should ask yourself if you like them enough or think that there are other things that allude to you guys being a good pair. Because I know for me, unless I really like somebody right off rip, if I know that they're avoidant, I will probably try to not get myself
Not get closer.
that relationship, not because they're not a good person or anything to do with them, but just knowing how I am in those situations. And obviously, like, I know that I personally don't do well with avoidance because it raises a bunch of insecurities and things in me that make me feel super anxious, because I'm very anxiously attached. Doesn't mean it can't work. It's just something to maybe be aware of when you're dating, because these things can be clocked early enough if you're being vigilant.
And I'm not saying that you should go like fucking trauma dump on your first date. Like, that's
another red flag.
That's also a red flag.
Yeah.
There is boundaries. There is lines of like what conversation looks like. We are specifically talking in terms of getting to know someone and seeing how interested someone is in getting to know you, and actually like making a match for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that if someone doesn't come tell you that their fucking uncle molested them in the 3rd grade on the first date that you shouldn't talk to them. Like... But these are things that you can clock early on. Maybe not first date, but if this continues on 2nd date, 3rd date, 4th date, where you realize, okay, maybe we're just not that compatible.
I think the biggest problem with dating nowadays is that people aren't actually going on dates seeking somebody that's a good match for them. When you go on a date, you're trying to present the best version of yourself. You're not really paying that close attention to what the other person is doing, because you're focusing on whether or not this person is going to like you at the end of this date. Maybe some people recognize certain things that they don't like about the other person, hence why they don't go on a 2nd date. But if we really went into first dates truly focused on whether or not the person sitting across from us is a good match for us, with family values, communication skills, if they're ambitious like you, maybe you're an ambitious person, maybe this person's not. These are things, as small as they may seem on the first date, because we don't know this person, that inevitably end up being a deal breaker down the road because it doesn't align with who you are as a person. And obviously there are people out there that do recognize these things on a first date, but I do feel like the problem with dating nowadays is that we're too focused on what the other person is going to think of us rather than if they're actually a good match for us.
Well, absolutely. And I feel like it's so hard because you go on a date sometimes and you kind of know, like, I really fucked with that person or I didn't really. Like, it's so obvious to you right off the jump if you want to see that person again. But a lot of times that isn't focused on their morals, values, and goals.
If you're compatible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's focused on, were they cute? How was the conversation? Were we vibing? It's
Totally.
not really focused on, does this person seem like somebody that could mold into my world and bring something to my life and also be very compatible with me, which is a lot to expect on a first date meeting somebody. But I do feel like a lot of the signs of whether or not you're going to be compatible with somebody show on the first date. Now, does that mean that if you don't have certain compatibility traits with somebody that it's not going to work? No, it's going to take work. It's going to be more friction in the relationship. And like, could there potentially be somebody else out there that will just work so much easier. Sure. Does that mean that that's what you should do? No, not necessarily. But if you are actually somebody that's looking to cut the bullshit, then I seriously suggest the next time you go on a date, recognize, I don't care how fucking cute they are. I don't care how charming they are. I don't care if they're funny. Like, you need to find out, you need to get to the root of the problem, and you need to find out if they're somebody that aligns with you.
The root of the person. And that's what comes with asking questions and answering questions in return. And this is kind of an out-of-pocket statement, but something I've always admired are arranged marriages. Now, obviously consensual arranged marriages, but an arranged marriage that it's arranged by your parents means that your parents picked that partner for you because they basically interviewed and vetted that person to make sure it's a person that they think is going to match the morals, the values, ethics that are going to make the best partner, the best match for you. Obviously, I understand that's not true in situations of all arranged marriages.
There's a lot of like politics involved.
I understand that there's a lot more that goes into that, but in certain countries, in certain religions, arranged marriages are parents picking a partner that they think is going to be the best match for their child. And there's no first date, there's no bullshit that goes into that. It is, are the morals and values of these people aligned?
You know, it's funny because if I were to just give the fucking dating baton to my family or to my best friend and let them pick the people that they think are best for me, it kind of like wipes away the delusion that you might put upon somebody or what you might think you need or want for yourself, because it's somebody else that loves you and knows you choosing what is best for you based on what they know about you, somebody that knows you probably better than you know yourself. Now, do I think that an arranged marriage is something I would ever fucking want? Hell no. My mom would fucking set me up with the librarian because she knows that I need
To study more,
like
to be more studious.
fucking grounding.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? But maybe the librarian would treat me the way that I deserve to be treated. Maybe we'd have like intellectual conversations that I crave so much in romantic relationships that I so lack in the real world. So I see your point there.
If I could arrange a marriage for you, girl, it would have been fucking done and dusted. It would have been dusted, musted, busted, absolutely together.
Do you think I would have liked the person you picked for me?
Probably not.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's the thing about love, and I am the firmest, strongest believer that you choose who you love. You might fall in love. You might have fleeting, passionate, obsessive love that you think is the love that you want for yourself. But I truly believe that if you choose who you're going to love based off of a partner that has aligned morals and values that you want for your life and that can help you build the life that you've always imagined building, you will have a strong and prosperous relationship, a lot stronger than if you would have chosen the person that you had lustful love with.
That reminds me, you know, when you're in the beginning of a relationship and you get those butterflies and almost like that uneasy feeling because you're so excited. Yeah, that's anxiety and you're not actually in love. They're scaring you and you should be scared.
Which is so fucking true. I actually saw something today that I loved, and it was like, you don't fall in love with the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, because falling in love is lustful and fleeting and exciting and passionate, but you walk into love.
Yeah.
You walk into love with your eyes wide open, knowing exactly what you want, seeing everything that you want to see in that person, and building a life together. And that is how you know that you're building a foundation in love that is actually substantial. That's not like, we fell so hard and so fast and we crashed and burned like fucking stars in the atmosphere.
I will say this until I am blue in the face. When you are starting a relationship, that feeling of infatuation and obsession over somebody, that is anxiety. That person, you are obsessing over this person because they're stressing you out. You're stressed out and you need them to relieve your stress. It's not because you actually like them. It's not because they actually like you. It's not love. It's not even infatuation. It's obsession, and it's unhealthy, and it's not something that you should be seeking if you're actually seeking a long-term relationship.
That's why it's so important to know the difference between lust and love. The difference between lust and love is that lust is what makes you want to do it, even when you have no desire to be with each other. And love is what makes you want to be together, even when you have no desire to do it.
Lust is the devil, because lust will have you thinking you're in love, and lust will have you thinking that this is it. But it's just, at the end of the day, infatuation, obsession, being with somebody that's stressing you out. It's almost like subconsciously you need this person to to like you to feel satisfied. And the thing about that type of a relationship is you're never going to feel satisfied. So you never lose that feeling of lust, because the feeling of lust stems from the feeling of anxiety and stress that somebody causes you. The second that you actually get that person, and we've said this a million times, you don't want them anymore. Because if you really loved that person, if that person really loved you, you wouldn't be stressed, you wouldn't be lusting over them, you wouldn't be infatuated, you wouldn't be obsessed, you wouldn't care if they didn't hit your phone, because you're not worried about if they like you or not. You know that they love you. The only time that you are worried if somebody is not hitting you up or texting you back is if they don't like you. If you knew somebody liked you, if you knew somebody loved you, you would not stress when they did not contact you. You would know that they're off doing their thing and that they'll call you the second that they can. If you're in a relationship and this person doesn't text you and it stresses you out, it sends you into a spiral, it's because you don't feel safe, because somewhere deep down, subconsciously, you know that this person actually doesn't like you that much, doesn't care about you that much. And that's why you freak out. That's why you panic. That's why you worry. If you were with somebody that actually cared about you and loved you and wanted to be with you, these things would never cross your mind. If they disappeared for 8 hours one day, you would be more concerned if they were dead than if they liked you.
Well, we had a fucking reel go viral one time. Clearly people agree that when you're with a man that you trust, you're more worried about him dying than cheating on you. Like, I stand by that.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, back to the beginning of this topic where we're talking about first dates and building a partnership and like finding someone who you're compatible with. That's why it's so important to build a foundation of trust. Number one, you don't got shit if you don't got trust. Like, if you start your partnership with anxiety and mistrust and disbelief that your partner can be who you need them to be, it is never gonna be what you need. I can fucking promise you right now. And I can say just from personal experience, I'm 107, so I've had quite a bit. That's funny because we had someone DM us and they were like, how old are you? And I was like, why the fuck does it matter?
Obviously very young and youthful and beautiful, obviously.
From personal experience, I didn't lustfully fall in love with my fiance. I chose to walk into love with him because he built a foundation with me. Like, good fucking luck shattering it. Good luck.
I like that though, because like falling in love is scary. It's like falling is scary.
Think about falling off a skyscraper.
Yeah.
Would you rather fall off the top of a skyscraper with no parachute? Or would you rather walk off with a parachute, prepared, choosing your destiny, like ready to fucking lock and load?
Yeah.
So that was a full circle back around to red flags on first dates. And my last red flag, this is super fucking obvi, but I feel like I'll just say it just in case you didn't already know. If they start talking about their ex on a first date, pay the bill because you're a bad bitch and you can. Say, here's fucking $100, toss it onto the table, and walk out of the restaurant.
Yeah.
Somebody who is complaining, associating, having memories about their ex on a first date is not somebody who's in a place where they're ready to start a new relationship. That's it.
Now, I also agree that this is a red flag. And let me just say, I am somebody that is guilty of bringing up their exes, not on the first date, okay? But in relationships, I tend to talk about things that involve my past because a lot of my past is part of my life. And sometimes it's hard to not discuss these things. And like, I'm learning, I'm human. I know just because I don't like when the person I'm talking to or dating talks about their exes because it does make it seem like they care. I don't care when I'm talking about it. I'm just telling like a funny story or something that's crazy. But just for reference, if anyone's like me and they try to connect through personal stories, because that's what I try to do, maybe just leave your exes out of it. Like, it's definitely a conversation that should be had at some point in your relationship, but it doesn't need to be talked about or brought up because you see a car that reminds you of them and then you remember a story about something and then like the person you're with does not want to hear that.
And they don't
as innocent as it is, they don't want to hear it.
They don't understand it the way that you do. Because like when they hear the words my ex,
they're like, oh, so you were sucking his dick while he's driving down the road. You're like, no, babe, there was a fucking hit and run outside of the window. Like, also, another thing I'm learning is you can tell stories and just leave out
the person.
Yeah.
You know how much better it is when you learn to tell stories without like outing yourself?
Yeah.
You can tell a really funny, intricate story and actually avoid the term my ex completely.
Yeah.
Like if there's a car that
I was driving one time, you don't have to say I was driving one time with my ex.
Yeah. One time me and my ex had just got done fucking in the hotel down the street. Like, no, it's not necessary to add insignificant details that are insignificant to you but might be significant to your partner.
Yeah. To be aware, self-aware, conscious.
Be a little bit self-aware.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. So I'm outing myself right now for anyone that's ever been with me or anyone that's currently with me. Sorry.
The last thing I have to say about this topic before we move on is be with someone who knows what they want. The most attractive thing a person can do is know what they want and not be subtle about it.
So when you're on a first date, be down for what you're down about. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid that they're not going to like you because of what you like. Because if they don't like you for what you like, then that is not meant to be. The person that is meant for you will like you for everything that you're passionate about and everything that you care about and everything that you're down about. They will be down about the things that you're down about.
So be fucking down and don't be shy.
So on the topic of becoming the best version of ourselves, the most authentic version of ourselves, and the most attractive version of ourselves, I discovered something recently within the astrological realm that I think could help you guys become better versions of yourself. More attractive.
Sexy.
Yeah, more magnetic versions of yourself.
Which, let's be real, it's all we all want to be, is just like a more attractive version of ourselves. Everyone's always looking for a way to feel more magnetic.
Agreed. And I have the secret. The secret to finding love this cuffing season and becoming the most attractive and confident version of yourself is to embrace your Venus sign. In astrology, Venus is the planet of love, beauty, and pleasure. And the best way that you can figure this out for yourself is by downloading the app Astra and asking its Ask Me Anything feature exactly this. How can I find love by using my Venus sign? When I did this, I was shocked at how personalized the answer was to who I am. It told me that if I want to find love, I need to go somewhere where there's music, art, or nature. And last weekend, I went somewhere where there was an art show, and I have a date next weekend.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm so dead serious. And it's so funny because, like, how did it know? I'm literally, for the people listening, I'm a musician. I've always been an artist, and I've always felt the most grounded in nature. I go somewhere, I meet somebody, and now I'm going on a date. It's almost creepy how much it clocked me. Like, I felt like I was being read to filth a little bit.
Sometimes people are like, that shit's all hocus pocus, it's bullshit, it's just telling you what you want to hear. But honestly, like,
how would it know that?
It is so personalized. And like, you have to put in your date of birth, the place you were born, and the time you were born.
Listen, okay, so for anyone that knows anything about astrology, I am a Libra Venus. Your Venus sign tells you so much about who you are in love, in relationships. Venus is the planet of love and beauty, okay? I, being a Libra in Venus, means that I am basically fucked, or at least I've thought my whole life that I'm fucked, because Libra is inherently the sign that really loves love and is almost like the sign that you would be the most swindled, which tracks. Madison is a Scorpio Venus, and Scorpios are very passionate, very alluring, very sexy, very dramatic, very intense.
That makes sense.
The word I'm looking for. Madison's astro reading told her that she should wear more colors like red, black, embrace her mysterious side and her alluring, sexy side. Mine told me to go to the fucking art show. So it really does vary based on your Venus sign, and like your Venus sign is so crucial to how you love. Another sign that has a lot to do with how you'll find the right person for you is your Mars sign, but we could talk about that in like another episode. But there really is so much that you can learn from your astrology natal chart if you believe in it. I know that there is a lot of controversy around astrology, and I agree. In the mainstream media, it has kind of been made out as a bit of a joke, like this horoscope could be for anybody, or these characteristics don't have anything to do with what time I was born or what day I was born or what month I was born. I understand the conflict that people have that are very logical with why this makes sense. But if you really do think about astrology at the end of the day, we are all made up of matter that comes from this
Stardust.
earth.
Literal stardust.
We are a part of this universe. So if the planets moving have an effect on, let's say, the moon being full makes the tides rise, we're 80% water. Why would that not affect us? Just curious. I understand logically it doesn't make sense. Like, okay, all Scorpios are very passionate. Like, that's a very broad example. But that's not what astrology is. Astrology defines you to your core based on patterns that coexist decade after decade after after decade after decade. Like, these findings weren't just made overnight. These are
generations.
These are made over years and years and years. This is all based on data that has been tracked for centuries.
It's not just some random white girl on a podcast telling you that your Venus sign is relevant. Like, it is actually relevant.
And I understand the skepticism behind it, but I
dig a little deeper.
I implore you to just research it, just look into it. Like, the way that I got into astrology was truly just through curiosity. Did I believe it when I first started to research it? No. Did I start to believe it the more that I learned about it? Hell yeah.
And the more that it like immediately
made sense,
immediately resonated with who you actually are and your experiences that you have actually been through.
We talk a lot about psychology on this podcast and how knowing certain things makes you feel more understood within yourself, makes you understand yourself better. That is how I first found astrology. I felt like learning about my own signs and my own persona based on astrology, it resonated to a degree that I can't really explain during a time of my life where I felt really lost and confused, and it just made sense to me. And I just started to learn more about it and study it just through being interested. Like, I did not hold this to any like degree of accuracy. I just wanted to know more. And I feel like the more I learn about it, the cooler I think it is. Like, I am that type of person. It's like, what's your sign? Do you know what time you were born? Not that I think it truly defines each person, that everyone in the same sign or the same natal chart or whatever, the same cycle of life is the same. But there are parallels and there are similarities. And the more you look into it, the more you actually realize this.
I do want to say, if you're a fucking absolute hater of astrology, not like someone who's like, maybe, maybe not, but if you're someone who hears like, oh, she likes signs and she's a dumb bitch, you don't know a thing about it. You're uneducated. Educate yourself so you can have a real opinion.
And this goes exactly back to what I was just saying. If the fucking planets and the fucking moon and the fucking this and the fucking that have an effect on nature down here on Earth, which we are a part of because we are literally molecules within the same fucking existence. We are no different than the river and the rocks and the animals.
Ground yourself. Like, go outside and put your feet in the fucking dirt and look up at the sky and ground yourself.
If the full moon makes the tide rise, which is a fact, and we are 80% water, then the next time someone tells you that the full moon makes the crazies come out, maybe believe that there's a little bit of truth to that. It's the same thing as like when someone talks about ghosts or paranormal things. Like, these beliefs come from somewhere.
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not true.
These things aren't just pulled out of someone's ass one day. They are patterns that people recognize that get logged, and as time goes on, it becomes a phenomenon. Like, the moon makes the crazies come out. It's just something that I think is interesting and cool. And you can be a hater. You can say it's fake. The haters will say it's fake.
The haters will say it's fake.
But I think the haters have closed minds and
need to open their fucking mind.
You're lost. Yeah.
So on that note, check your astrological sign, bitch, because it's relevant.
It is relevant. And on that note, we love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in to podcast 39. We will see you guys next Tuesday.
Pink pony girls gonna dance at the club on the stage at our heels on mama. Fat Therapy Podcast, episode 39.